Hello and welcome to Sincerely Speaking. I am Marcy Amaro, self-leadership coach, communication expert, and your life integration strategist. Today, I am thrilled to have with us Regina Partain Bergman. She is a profit acceleration and exit strategy specialist. We met through a common networking group that we were both involved in, and we immediately understood and saw that we had so much in common. We had to connect. We've had a couple of conversations since, and every time it just reaffirms the fact that we were supposed to do some sort of collaboration at some point. So this is the first of many, I'm sure. And I am so excited to welcome Regina to Sincerely Speaking, to chatting with us. Thank you for being with us today.
I am so thrilled to be here. Thank you, Marcy. It is a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to this next conversation that we're having. And I think you're right. I think we're going to do some wonderful things together.
I agree, and I am so excited. But before we dive into the topic of conversation today, let's just get a little bit of your background, your story, how you got into this whole world of entrepreneurship. I always love hearing these stories.
Okay. Well, it started when I was a child.
We're going to go way back.
Way back. I babysat, I house
Oh,
cleaned, I did door-to-door charity campaigns, as a youth, as a child, and as a teenager. And I think I'm just an entrepreneur at heart. Uh, so I've worked for others, but I quickly go back, and finally came to a point in my life where I said, yeah, I don't want to work for anybody ever again, other than myself. So I've had multiple businesses over the years. My most successful business was also my greatest failure.
Hmm.
I had a staffing firm for 12 and a half years. Started off in a small rural community. We grew that to 6 offices in 2 states. We were doing a little under 5 million in revenue a year when the crash of 2008 hit.
Ooh,
By March of '09, I was out of business.
ooh.
So I know what it is to lose a business. So that's a lot of what drives my profit acceleration and exit strategy, because I didn't have an exit strategy. I had to close my doors. Sad thing was, my daughter and my son-in-law both worked for me, and they had just had their first child, and there was no work for him in the community outside of what we were doing. So they had to move to a town 4-hour drive away. So, I mean, there are so many things that can happen to a business if it's not built properly, and if it doesn't have a good exit strategy. And if anything happens to the owner, there's nothing for the family to sell, or the owner decides that at some point they want to do something different. There's nothing to sell. That's so sad. So I'm on a mission to change that. That's part of my entrepreneurship.
Yeah, she is definitely on a mission. And every time she talks about it, the passion just bubbles out of her. It's so cool to see.
Can't control it.
Nor do we want to. But among the many gifts and talents that you have, I would love to center our conversation today around this idea of networking and creating connections and community, which I know is one of the things that you're not only really good at, but that you are passionate about as well.
Yes, I am.
So I would love to just first question ask you, why is it today more than ever really important to focus on and creating networks?
Oh, great question. These are challenging times that we live in, right? And it's so much harder and slower if you attempt to do it alone. You cannot know everything. You cannot know everyone. We need to know people who fill in the blanks for us,
Yeah.
and people who are willing to share our message with others, people who are willing to refer people to us, people that we can do joint projects with. I mean, I have this amazing partner in Canada that, for joint venture projects we do together. and people in England that I've done joint ventures with, and just you can joint venture with anyone around the world today, which I absolutely love. That we are such a global society, and there's nothing stopping us from serving people in other countries, from meeting people in other countries. I got to speak at a conference in South Africa last year. I'm trying to remember the name of the country. I can't remember. But I got to speak at a conference, a women's conference there, and I did it right here from my home in Houston.
So cool.
We live in such a day and age that is just amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, if there's so much value in creating those relationships, and you never know where they're going to go. You and I met a few months ago, but we are now starting to explore opportunities to work together. You never know where they're going to go. And I always, when I meet someone, I'm always thinking, who do I know that I can introduce this person to that would be of benefit to them? And so it's not all about having them help us, but how we help them as well. It needs to be a give and take.
Absolutely.
Did that answer that?
Oh, it did. It did. Now, there's a certain mindset element to all of this, right? Like entrepreneurs have so much in their vocabulary and in their mindset, or tend to, right? I'm generalizing, but tend to have so much in their vocabulary and in their mindset around lone wolving things or solopreneur or
Right.
lonely at the top, right? That kind of language.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned something that is the opposite, right? Like, how do you approach networking with a different kind of mindset? So walk us through a little bit how that shift can serve us in moving forward in our businesses.
It's interesting that you mentioned the term, it's lonely at the top. I remember years ago when I was very young, I worked at a credit union. And when I moved up through the ranks and moved into management and was the assistant manager, I remember driving home one day from work thinking, it's lonely at the top. I don't have anybody to talk to about my concerns, about what's going on for me. And that's a big part of networking and building that network out is you have people that relate to what you're experiencing.
Absolutely.
And people you can actually share your heart with, share your concerns with. And so I think that's a big thing. Could you repeat that question for me, though? I digress.
The difference between the typical entrepreneur mindset of being alone and doing it alone versus networking. And you just mentioned that you go into it thinking, how can I serve them too, right? So that
absolutely. And it needs to be serve first. How do I serve them first? What can I do for them? That's why I always am thinking of who can I introduce them to? What do they need? Help, understand their perspective first. Yeah, if you don't have a network of folks around you, it is lonely at the top.
Yeah.
It is difficult. It creates those places where you think, I'm just going to quit. I'm going to give up.
Yeah.
Because entrepreneurship is not easy.
It really
and
is.
It's a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
And you've got to be in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that support network around you, that long haul could be pretty short.
Yeah. And I think that the pandemic brought to light a lot of the need for connection, right? Like,
yes,
we
indeed.
experienced it like never before. What was that experience like for you?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. We actually moved during the pandemic, about 3 months into it. Moved from my small town up in the northern part of Texas down here to the Houston area. And I didn't leave my home. I was here. Church was over the internet.
Yep.
We got our groceries, went to the doctor as needed, that kind of a thing. And other than that, we were here. So I think that we all lost a great deal during that time.
Yeah.
And many of us are still working at recovering that.
Yeah.
We weren't able to see family. We weren't able to see friends. We weren't able to see clients in a lot of situations, and so, and clients truly can be part of that network that you
Mhm.
have as well. It's not just other business owners, but my clients are a huge part of my own network. And they are a huge part, I would say, of my mental health in terms of that lonely at the top. Yes, there's that element that they are clients, but all of my clients are my friends also. We've been together so long, they're friends. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, don't make friends of your clients as a coach. But I disagree with that.
Yeah.
I want to serve them at the highest level. And we have become, great friends to the point where in a group coaching meeting, if they feel they need to correct me, they'll correct me.
And that's a good
you know,
thing. We're there
and
to
it
learn from
is
each
a
other,
good
right?
thing. Absolutely. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, my clients become my family, and that's the way I see it.
Are.
And I
Yes,
like looking at it like that because I would do anything for my family, right? So when I
yeah,
start embracing my clients as my family, they become part of that nucleus of people where I would do anything to serve them at the highest level
absolutely.
to make sure they have what they need, right?
Exactly. And you sacrifice for them. You want them to be successful. Now, you can't want it more than they do, obviously. It wouldn't
Obviously.
happen. But my clients are all motivated that I don't have that issue, but a lot of folks do. And
Yeah. Now, going back to this idea of networking, there is a right way to do networking and a wrong way to do networking. And I'm not usually very black and white and very cut and dry in things, but I think that part of the reason why a lot of entrepreneurs shy away from networking events is because it feels like going into a den of wolves almost, right? Like everybody's ready to pounce. So, what advice do you have for those of us who
uh,
understand that there's value in networking, but we are worried about how to approach networking events?
good question. So again, the element of service comes in. How can I serve these people I'm working with or talking to? The other element is that you're not there to pitch your services. You're there to make the connection, build some trust. In your introduction, when you tell people who you are, you need to do it in such a way that they say, oh, wow, I'd like to know more about that, rather than, okay, I'm going to somebody else now.
Right?
Right. And so many times, there's that old term of being thrown up on, right? And
Yeah.
somebody just throwing up on you and in terms of their language and what they're saying. And you don't want to be that person. You want to be that person that people say, wow, I met this really nice person today, and I want to know more about them and what they do.
Yeah.
And and that, again, if you can find a way to serve that person, then that's all the better. People like to do business with people they know, like, and trust. So give
Mhm.
them time to get to know you. Don't be salesy. Don't be pushy.
Nope.
It's not a pitch fest, although many people go to it like a pitch fest. That's
Yeah,
not its purpose. Its purpose is to build relationships that can ultimately lead to business opportunities and
absolutely.
service opportunities.
And I always think, and I would love to hear your take on this, right? But I always approach these events as be the one that says the least and asks the most, right?
There you go. Ask questions. I love it. Absolutely. Get them talking.
Yeah,
Learn about them. How do you know if you and your services are even right for them if you don't know more about them?
yeah,
Yeah. So learn about them. And what is everyone's favorite subject generally, right?
them. Yeah,
Right? So
absolutely.
so they like talking about themselves for the most part, unless you're talking to an extreme introvert, then they might not. But
An extreme introvert probably wouldn't venture into a big networking
yeah, unless
right
they
off the
had
bat.
to, right?
They would find
Exactly.
a point of less resistance to enter, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it was Dale Carnegie, I think it was, that said, if you want to be the most interesting person in the room, be interested in the other person, right?
Yes.
And
I think you're right about that.
yeah. And I always take that
Yeah,
to heart. I mean, I am an introvert at heart.
absolutely.
Like my default, most people don't believe it, but I am an introvert, right? So one of the skills
Yeah.
that I've developed in order to help me get out of that shyness and start stepping out and being more outgoing is asking questions and being interested in the
Asking
other
questions.
person, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then follow up afterwards, right? With folks that you meet. And I think a lot of us drop the ball on that,
Yeah.
that we meet someone, we may take their business card if they have a business card, and those business cards wind up ultimately in a round file under your desk. And without having had any interaction, and it doesn't mean that you can just put them on your email list either,
No.
just because you got their business card.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good either. But you can pick up the phone. That old thing, the phone, that we've all forgotten what it is. We recognize this little guy, but those of us who are a little older, we would pick up a phone and call people.
Yeah.
And I think we've gotten fearful of that
Yeah.
because everybody deals so much in email and text. I think we've become fearful of calling people and interrupting them. But try it. Pick up the phone and call them. Hey, I enjoyed meeting you at the networking session the other day. Would love to get to know more about what you're doing in your business. I was intrigued.
Yeah.
Can we get together and have a little chat, or is there a time that works for you that we could sit down and we could talk about what you're doing and how I might be of service to you in your business?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Serve
great way to
first.
place it too.
Serve first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one of the things also is we are at the receiving end so much of people doing this wrong, right? So
Yes.
our perception then becomes that's how we're going to be received, right?
Right.
But if we do it differently,
Yes.
then we're going to be received differently, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and just doing that little extra mile is going to help us stand out so much too.
And if you're concerned about picking up the phone and calling them, why not end your conversation with them at the networking event by saying, hey, I'm really intrigued about what you're doing. I would love to sit down and have a chat with you about it and see how I might serve you or how we could serve one another. Are you okay with me giving you a call?
Yeah.
Now you've got permission.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to be scared about. They've already said, yes, I'll take your call.
That is so cool. Yeah, and these are skills that I believe were in were in danger of extinction before the pandemic, but after the
Yes,
pandemic specifically, they have become so foreign to us, unfortunately, right? Like it used to be part of your upbringing where you would interact with new
yes,
people and you knew how to
yes,
approach them, how to be respectful in that first interaction. But right now, it's something that is so apart, right? So detached
right.
from the way we
Yes,
operate that it's a skill that we get to start relearning as
yes,
a
yes,
society.
indeed. And we have to get out of our comfort zones.
Yeah.
The more we are inside of our homes and our offices and not interacting, particularly if you tend to be somewhat on the introverted side,
Yeah.
the more we do that, the more uncomfortable it is to reach out to someone else. We get just more and more comfortable in that cocoon, if you will, and
Absolutely.
struggle to reach out. I'm 50-50 on the introvert extrovert scale. I always say I love doing the dog and pony show, but when it's over, give me my me time.
I feel you. I'm leaning more towards that now. Like I think that introversion, extroversion is something that you can play with a little bit, and you can learn some
Absolutely.
skills that
You
move
can
you.
learn how to function outside of your natural inclination.
Yeah,
The discomfort may still be there, but you can learn how to function in it.
absolutely.
And that's important.
Yeah.
There's another, if you don't mind, a little
Go ahead.
sidebar. There's another element to introversion and extroversion that most people don't relate to. They think mostly of it being that they're comfortable around people or they're not. But it's also how you process information, which is what makes introverts so silent
Yeah.
sometimes, because introverts process internally.
Internally.
They have to process it before they speak.
Yeah.
Extroverts process out here.
Mm-hmm.
They process it as it comes out of their mouth. So what they started with may be completely different from what they end with because they're processing as they go.
Yeah.
And so they're the more vocal because they process outside, where introverts process internally.
Yeah.
So,
And we need both of
yeah.
those.
And we need both of
And
those.
I
Yes.
actually, looking forward to our conversation today. I did a live on Facebook today talking about how introverts can actually be the best networkers out there because that internal process
Yes.
opens up
Yes.
doors to observations, to listening, to asking
Yes.
insightful questions that extroverts might miss. So
Yes.
just
Good point. I like that. Very good.
Y'all, I mean, I don't know. I take full advantage of being an introvert. I love the book Quiet by Susan Cain. And I think that we do people a disservice when we try to make it seem like one is more productive than the other, or like
Yeah,
one
or
is
better,
better than
or
the other in any
yeah.
way, shape, or form. I think that all personalities are valuable. All personalities have
Yes,
something special to bring, and that includes the introversion extroversion piece.
it does. And the key is learning who you are and learning how others are different and learning to appreciate that and understand it. And
Yes.
so many communication issues occur because we don't understand it. And we always expect people, we expect ourselves to be the norm.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm normal, you're different. That makes you not normal. When there is no normal, it's we're all different, but we have to learn the strengths of that other person, how
Yes.
they communicate. Yeah, it's so important.
Absolutely. And that's a big part of building that network as well, right? Is I am not good at everything, but there's
Right.
someone out there who's good at all the things that I'm not good at. And the more
Exactly.
I expand my network, the more access I have to different types of people who can complement the things that I'm not great at.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
makes for a beautiful world.
It does indeed.
So before we get carried away in 20 other thousand conversations that are coming into my head, someone
We're
who,
so alike.
right? Someone who is thinking, who's listening to us or watching the video and is thinking, okay, Regina, Marcy, I get it. Networking is important. It's something that I should start doing, but I have absolutely no clue how to even get started. What would be something that you would recommend they can start doing or looking at right away that would get them moving in the right direction?
So one thing that they could do is check with your local chamber of commerce. And that most chambers hold a networking event of some kind. There are going to be people there that you're already comfortable with. You know them in your community. Unless you're still sitting behind closed doors from COVID and just never get out and
I
meet
love.
anybody. You're going to know some of these people because they're your local business owners.
Mhm.
And so that's a good way because there's a level of comfort and security built into that. There are so many wonderful online network events that I participate in several. One that I participate in that you and I both are aware of is the Deluxe Network program that is amazing, the work that they're doing. But there are a lot of really good networking programs out there. The key to networking is making sure you're in the right group,
Yeah.
making sure that the people in that group are a good fit for you in many ways.
Yeah.
And that values comes to my mind, for one thing,
Yeah.
making sure you have some shared values, um, making sure that they're either an ideal client or an ideal vendor or an ideal partner of some kind for some kind of joint venture relationship. So really don't just dive into every group. Take a look at them, explore them, find out a little bit more about how they run their meetings. Is it just a sales pitch? Is it an opportunity to get to know other people? Do they do some breakout rooms? How do they run their meetings?
Yeah.
And what's the focus of that group? So do your research before you join the groups.
Absolutely.
And there's lot of just wonderful networking groups out there. And again, there are some that are geared to women only, some that are, that are both genders. There's also so, what was I going to say? I lost it. Yeah, I totally lost the rest of that thought.
Anyway. No, but you can do some searching, right? Like I would, when I first started looking into networking, I went to Facebook and I did a search for local groups, and a lot of them have live interaction or online virtual events. And I started just tapping into that. But what you said is key. It's don't just dive into becoming a member or just getting sold into the first group that you find. Do a little research. For me, it took a little bit of trial and error too, right? Like I would go to I would go to the meeting, explore, see some I resonated with, some I was like,
some you don't. Yeah. And it's like, not going back to that one. It's okay. You're nice people, but I'm not coming back. And you don't have to tell them that. You just don't come back.
Just don't go back. Especially make sure you haven't paid any fees until you're
there
sure.
You go. Right? And that's a really good point. Most networking groups, you don't have to pay a fee for a lot of especially the virtual networking groups that are here. If it's a chamber event, you probably need to be a member of that chamber to go to that networking event. So there is a fee there. There's an annual membership fee for your chamber. But yeah, most networking groups, just for networking, I haven't paid a fee for.
Yeah, no. So be cautious of all that too, right? Like I have seen some groups that because they serve a meal, they charge you a little fee because they use that to purchase the meal or things like that.
Right.
But be really clear on what the intention is behind the fee and why you're being charged. So
talk to the organizer or someone in the leadership of that group. Get your questions answered and then try them out. If it resonates with you.
Awesome. Now, and as with anything else in the world, right? If you don't find what you're looking for, then it might be a little tug to start it yourself.
There you go.
To go ahead and get it going, because we need to have representation.
Yeah.
We need to have people finding their space where they can collaborate, because connection is currency after all.
Absolutely. I like that.
It's not my thought, so you are welcome to steal it because I stole it from someone else. So in closing, we're coming to the end of our time together. It just amazes me every single time when I'm talking to someone that I resonate with, that is as awesome as you, that has so much wisdom, how quickly time flies. And before
Thank you, that was very kind.
It's the truth. So before we go, last thoughts that you would like to leave us with before we end the conversation.
As you mentioned in the very beginning, collaboration is a passion. And I'm so passionate about it that I've actually started a LinkedIn live show where that's all we do is talk about collaboration. And it is so rewarding to find others that you can go through this life with. Absolutely. That you resonate with. Like you and I have come to that knowledge that we resonate. We're in sync in so many areas. And it energizes you when you find those experiences. When I come off of my LinkedIn live shows, my energy is usually way up there, right?
Yeah, we feel each other, right?
Yeah. So treat yourself. Go find some folks to network with. Give yourself that treat of having people that you can walk through this life with, who got your back in some ways, and you've got theirs, and that you enjoy the time with, and you can learn from each other, and you can serve one another. Absolutely. And in the process, make a difference in the world.
That's so cool. So cool. Now, for anybody who wants to learn more about your profit acceleration and exit strategy work that you do, or anything else that you have going on, because I know you have a bunch of things going on, what is the best way for them to reach you and contact you?
Probably the best way is to just reach out to me via email, but put in a subject line, Marcy's show. Okay, Marcy's show. Found you on Marcy's show. Something that lets me know, because folks, I get hundreds and hundreds of emails every day, and we don't want it to get lost in the email shuffle. So that would be Regina, Regina, at bridgeportstrategy.com, and that's strategy singular, Strategi, bridgeportstrategy.com.
All right. So we will add that email address to the show notes and the description if you're watching on YouTube, so you can shoot her an email. You can also look for her on LinkedIn. She's very active on there, and she is Regina Partain Bergman. I almost forgot that. She also has books out there, so go check her out. She has tons to offer, and connect with her and make sure that you put her as part of your network, because it will be worth your time.
I would love that.
Well, thank you again for your time, Regina. This has been amazing. And for those of you watching, thank you for your time. We don't take it lightly. And make sure you share this with someone that you know can benefit from it. See you next time on Sincerely Speaking.
Bye.